know there's some acronyms in here, but maybe, I guess maybe somewhere in the document there explain.
Okay.
That'd be, yeah. Do you need a motion?
I do.
Make a motion that we adopt the changes for the Morristown sidewalk policy.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Number 3, discuss road acceptance policy.
So a couple things that I saw in there that I liked. First of all, the 3 completed houses. I had stepped forward and maybe suggested a 5 completed houses. But when you add the minimum length of the road to be 500 feet, I think that the 3 completed structures along with that 500-foot length is sufficient to keep us from plowing driveways, which is my concern. So I'm going to the 3 completed structures. Now this is residential, correct?
Correct.
We're not talking commercial, because commercial is a whole different animal when you start looking over at the Chauvin off Blue Island. I mean, it's a short road,
Yes.
but it services commercial buildings and it was built with specs. And so, I mean, are we going to have a separate policy for commercial buildings on the roads? Or
You could, no, I mean, this is your policy, and I, you know, I think I liked the way you put it last time. This helps me explain to people when they come in, these are our guidelines. You know, this is what, you know, if you want to be a town road, or just become a town road, these are our guidelines. And, you know, even if you do come in and request it, when we go out to look at it, these are the guidelines. It helps me explain to people, you know, where to start at. It kind of opens up the discussion. Some people may look at it and go, well, when we get there, it's too expensive. Other people may say, yeah, we can do that. And then we know what the standard is then. So these are, you know, there's the old one that we had, the new one that we've been working off of, where we didn't accept any dead-end roads. So really, this is your policy, so that when we go out on a road hearing, you're able to say, oh, this piece of road does or does not meet our acceptance policy, and this is what you need to do to bring it up to the select board standards for acceptance. And I'm kind of looking for feedback from you guys for what you want this to be.
Eric, which one were you talking about?
number 15, 14 and 15, about 3 pages down, somewhere in there. It just says, no residential road serving fewer than 3 completed houses will be accepted, and any road under 500 feet in length will be considered a private drive, so it won't be eligible for us to take over. Because my concern, Judy, when we did the site visit the last time, is that if the number of houses wasn't combined with the length on the road, then we would end up basically plowing driveways.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that there's a 500-foot minimum length. That's a good distance of road. And on that, 3 would be sufficient as far as I'm concerned. 3 completed homes would be sufficient to meet the criteria.
That's the old one, right? That's
Yeah,
not-
that's the old
not-
current.
It's not in the,
Well,
yeah,
then we can change
it's not in the
it.
new one.
It's not in that new one.
Yeah.
So there's 2. There was an old one that was changed before, and I think if you look on page 1 of it, it says the old. The reason why I get it,
Yeah.
that's kind of where we started off from. So the old one was before we stopped accepting dead-end roads. There was a 500-foot minimum, and there was the 3 houses. Select board came and said, gee, we don't like that. We don't want to accept any dead-end roads. And we changed it. And then it came back again, and we kind of made it on an I don't know what's the word I'm looking.
It was a case-by-case.
Case-by-case basis. And I don't think anybody, it was kind of a stopgap measure to get us to where we are today. So I think my recommendation is there are probably parts out of both of these policies that you like, and I think the idea is to take these and combine them into one good policy. And I think if we could get some direction off of you on that, just like the 3 houses, 4 houses, 5 houses, whatever it's going to be, 500-foot minimum, 1,000-foot minimum, lengthwise, then it helps get us some direction. You could say, 500 foot for residential and, commercial or industrial zone, could still be on a case-by-case basis. If it was serving one business, 3 businesses, there could be a huge business at the end of the property that will make a huge difference on what what your view of it is. Whereas a residential house, it's still 3 houses, 4 houses, or 5 houses. So I think if you do that, then I think you can give us some details, and then we can throw something back together and bring it back for another review, so that we're ready to go forward. And then we still have these hearings that we've had outstanding.
And it's still a policy.
It's still possible.
So I like the case-by-case verbiage to be in this new policy if it's not in this one. Because I think that is necessary for us. There are considerations we can't even come up with right now that will be thrown at us. And they work in one area, kind of work in the other. So.
I think what really brought us back was the dead-end road type of development where it's not a through road. And I don't think this board, I'm not speaking for, I don't think this board liked that piece of the policy. So in lieu of that, that's the reason why I provided the old policy, I think, is what's the length, how many houses, I think, was what you're looking for, but I don't know.
So it sounds, Eric, like you're saying keep 14 and 15 from the old policy, put it in the new one.
Yeah, I thought I didn't realize we had 2 separate copies going on here. So the old one dated 85. So yeah, I mean, my brother would have a road length minimum no less than 500 feet long and 3 completed structures, not 3 lots. Completed structures.
Why don't we do this? I think we'll take the existing policy that we have right now, which has the case-by-case thing in it. We're going to add paragraphs in it that allow for a minimum road length of 500 foot.
That's not very much. Is it? I mean, I just, as you're talking about this, me thinking about these roads in our town, 500 feet isn't very long, guys. I mean, that to me still sounds like a private road, and maybe I shouldn't be speaking out right now, but I would just like you guys to really, really think this through. I mean, when you're setting policies here. I mean, I think of my own driveway, it's 900 feet long.
Well, I'm thinking of that Lamoille one we looked at.
That's 500 short.
That's long. In
For
Sun
us
Valley,
to
not
take
the Sun
town
Valley.
trucks and plow.
Sun Valley's long.
Yeah, I'm open to other suggestions on length.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Right.
So my viewpoint is this. We have people that own large tracts of land in town, they're developers. And the value of the property goes up if the main corridor in that property servicing the lots is maintained.
I agree, yes.
So if that is, if that's going to help them to develop that, then our grand list is impacted in a positive manner. We know we're going to have an increase in staffing, equipment, in order to match this, but we've talked about we can balance that out. So that's why I have no objection to these dead-end roads. It's going to require more hours of plowing in particular, but I think it's going to be good for the health of the town, our housing crunch, all of these things will, I think will help, and it'll keep the values of the properties higher, in my opinion, but that's why we're doing this. But I have no objection to going longer distances, folks, and that was in the old policy, so I use that number.
I mean, most of you, maybe not Brian, but most of you here, 500-foot driveways, I think, but more. No?
Not us.
No.
Not Brian.
Oh.
Mine's a little shorter.
Think about what 500 feet is. Look, just ride around and look at driveways. I mean, that's not a whole lot.
Yeah, I was thinking too, a longer length, and potentially even more homes, because even 3 is.
Well, 800, is it 800 Act 250?
And I don't think there's any in that 250.
Something about it was 800 feet.
I'd like us to encourage no concepts or no dead-end roads, us to encourage that if we can. I don't know how to do that.
I think that's been part of the challenge of when we revisited it, is that it was stifling growth
The what?
the inability to have any public road be a dead end. It was impacting the ability for development.
I mean, I think there's natural wetlands and undeveloped property, and you can't have I'm thinking we went into the Bollinger Road,
Yeah.
wondering why it couldn't go around to the other.
Be a loop, yeah.
Yeah, be a loop.
Mhm. It's almost a case-by-case thing too, though, you know, the length of the road, depends on where the setting is.
That's good to have that word in there.
It is.
I agree, at least 3 houses, maybe more, because again, you start doing one,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden you're calling somebody's driveway.
Yeah.
And
I think 5 would be a good.
Five or
So I think the
six.
more you put on it, the road's gotta be longer on it to get the
It's
5.
gonna naturally happen.
Yeah.
But I would agree that 5 would be more reasonable, because 3 is a pretty small development. And if our argument is the growth ran less, 3 houses,
Not having long. We could say 1,000 feet, 5 houses.
1,000 feet, 5 houses. I would like to put in one thing on behalf of the road crew too, be designated snow storage area.
Mm.
that's really reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just eliminates problems and years down the road where somebody comes in and says, no, you can't put the snow there anymore.
Right.
You know, we've had that more and more now. The properties change hands and people go, I don't want your snow here.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it really is, it's a problem for the highway crew because I think we have to have those if we're going to do, especially that cul-de-sacs or hammerhead or something like that. We
I mean,
have to have a place to put
that
snow.
would be deeded, right?
It is a deeded.
Yeah.
park.
Deeded, yeah.
Yeah.
So that there's no discussion then from that point forward.
Okay.
And then leave the case by case in.
Yeah.
Make it like exceptions can be considered on a case by case.
Essentially.
Or denied, or denied too.
No, it's one or the other.
Yeah, if all of a sudden some reason.
Okay. Make sure I get everything. So 1,000 feet, 5 houses and designated snow storage. You'll put that into the existing policy and bring it back to.
That's good.
I mean, just want to make sure I'm clear on this. It has to meet all these things, but then if any dead end has to come before the select board.
Any
That's what it sounds like, right?
Any road has to come to
Yeah.
the select board anyway.
Yes.
Okay,
This just gives the people that are coming in here for a place to start, you know, on
Okay.
what the expectation will be.
Mhm.
How will that how will that impact existing roads? You know, if we adopt, the policy goes through as, you know, we've got it right now, and it's adopted. Existing roads, it's changing our policy from when they were built, how are we going to address that?
I mean, what do you mean, I want to make sure existing roads that.
Is there anything out
They'd
there?
have
that
to
could
come
be
in there
affected?
and ask, right?
Well, I mean, any existing road, we've been doing site visits on existing roads.
I don't think it will affect any of those. The only one that I think it may, and I think it would still meet it quite honestly, you know, of the things that you're adding in would be, what is that, Meadow Drive?
Yeah.
I think that's 1,000 feet, definitely have more than 5 houses on it.
Mhm.
You know, and we mentioned the snow storage area to them when we were there. So I don't think it would impact that one. Belonde, there's 8, 9 houses back there. I think it's definitely over, you know, close to 1,000 feet anyway.
it's definitely longer than that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty long road.
I know we had one road brought to us that's off Route 100, I forget the name of it, it was,
Shoveling.
yeah, that was the
Yeah.
nightmare. But, I mean, that road wouldn't, I don't think would fit,
It wouldn't be any of the,
wouldn't meet the criteria of
wouldn't be the criteria, unless they wanted to go through and put a significant amount of work into the road to help it meet these standards. But that road, I mean, there was a lot of things there. It was very, very narrow, a lot of trees, all that other stuff, plus the turnaround. But the other ones, you know, even I don't think he was the one that Chris owns. I don't think, even that one, I think is probably more than 1,000 feet.
That was the other, if it should be, the language should be units or houses? Housing units.
That's, yeah, you're talking about commercial, residential.
I think buildings,
yeah, I mean, then you run into people who have storage units, I mean.
Yeah.
barns, yeah, houses,
I like the word unit. And then we could define the word unit if we need.
Residential unit, commercial unit.
Right.
You know, you could always put a thing in there, you know, trying to make the exception for the commercial. You know, I can put some language in there where we talk about the exceptions, you know.
I mean, it's still, there's still a case-by-case
Yeah.
opportunity in there anyway. I'm just thinking if I wanted to put 4 duplexes in,
I'm not plowing your road.
I don't know what 4 duplexes that mean anyway, but, unless it's in front of Eric's house.
Can the Vastrel still go through?
Yeah.
That's a key.
I don't know, it's just,
We're trying to plug holes. I think we're getting down into the weeds a little. I'm not insulting anybody. I did the same thing. I'm just saying, let's
Yeah.
go, bring us something back and we'll you can continue to refine. But I know I'm sitting here all of a sudden trying to think of scenarios.
Who's it affect,
We don't
yeah.
want to go there. I think
That's
we're
why you
ready.
have a case by case.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I was talking myself out of my question, but.
I mean, generally speaking, if somebody comes in, you know, if we give them the policy and they're really still insistent, I'm gonna let them meet with you anyway.
Right.
You know, I'm not gonna tell somebody that they can't meet with the board to discuss it. And they may come to you and make a valid case for, you know, an exception to a policy. So you guys still have the authority to change the policy or accept the policy, you know, anytime that you want to. So, and hopefully, well, there'll be things that come up that probably next week.
Right. They will now.
Yeah.
All right, so you'll bring that back.
Yes, please.
All right, next, add new volunteer for the EMS. Bill?
Good evening. Stephanie Roddy is a National Registry EMT who's a Morristown resident and Port Coupling, also is with the Vermont Army National Guard. She's been referred to us by another member for membership, and we'd like to go ahead and bring her in, and we'll get her state certification going and then get her into orientation.
Sounds good.
Make a motion, we add Stephanie Roddy to the EMS volunteer
Second.
roster.
I missed it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Thanks, Bill. Old business, review site plan for Oxbow bathrooms.
Trish and I have been working on this. We have drawings at least to show you the area, and I put a little drawing up here.
This is round 3 or 4?
This is the
Five.
site plan. This is where we're gonna locate it. So this is, once again, please don't make fun of my artwork. But this understands, right, this is the tree, I think everybody had discussion, this is a rock. This is where our water access is, and there's a water line, a water main, a 12-inch main that runs along there. This is where we access the power. Apple tree back here, because I know that'll be a concern. This is where we have to have into the sewer. So what Trish and I have gone down and measured off is actually locating the bathroom behind that tree, kind of as depicted there. And this gives you the dimensions so that you can see what we're looking like. The bench that's in the foreground of that picture would go away, and that's where the bathroom would be located.
Where's the river? Where's the fish? Good
Put it
draw
on your
that on there.
drawing. Put it on your drawing.
So it's a higher elevation.
Yeah, we can't really, you know, there was a lot of discussion about putting it maybe down further. We can't get into the flood zone.
Yeah.
And so we can't go down further than this because this is where the flood zone takes off. Plus, we hit our sewer unless we want to start pumping.
Right.
You know, this sewer is about as shallow as we can go for a manhole.
We don't-
That's as far as we can run our main. So that's where the main ends. So we really can't go any further down the park. And we can't put it over here because that's where that water main is. We can't
Right,
go
because
across the
that's
water main.
originally where we talked, to the
Right.
right of where Dan has the tree.
Right.
All the water mains are all crossing right there.
Right.
And one of them goes all the way down under the river over to Brooklyn Street. Johnny from Water and Light, John Silver came and met with us.
Right.
And was like, guys, you just can't do it here. And so that was our original thought. This location here works well. You can keep the tree. You can, we know we'll have to take down the lilac bush on the front side. You'll see it really clean, you know what I mean? We'll take some of the low branches off that tree. The tree will still look beautiful, and you'll still have a very clean shot to see it.
There's a
It won't
couple
be
lilac
like
bushes back here
hidden.
that'll probably have to go.
How far is it from the bandstand? Or
It's
the,
on the other side of Community Gardens, this side,
it's toward,
RK Miles.
okay, all right, all right.
I'm gonna suggest, I don't have a problem with the location, but if we're gonna have it there, because of the bandstand and the Wednesday Night Live and that we create a walking path down through the middle of the gardens that is fenced off from the gardens, such that people have a direct, they aren't gonna walk out to the parking lot, up the road and into the bathroom.
No.
They're gonna go on the riverbank.
I think I have enough run room between the gardens and the parking lot that we could make an actual walkway. And it's not very far up from their area. I would
People are
not.
generally lazy, that's all.
I know, but now that we have fencing on the low side of the community gardens all the way across, I think we should definitely make something a walking path.
Yeah.
But it comes right up our grass line and then just cuts right over to it.
People are gonna take the path of least resistance.
I know.
I don't mean that people are just lazy, I'm just being.
Yeah.
We will have to build an ADA compliant sidewalk though, so we can't have that be our ADA compliant piece of that. There'll have to be an ADA compliant sidewalk grade wise that meets that.
Yep.
So,
That's good.
Thank you.
This one felt like it was a long process.
Is the RFP out now?
actually, we met today, we didn't have anybody show up, so I'm gonna go out and start making some phone calls and see if I can get somebody to build this for us. So we had the first on-site meeting. You know, when we do a construction RFP, we always put it out to everybody and say, meet us on site. You know, to follow your policy, so I'm gonna go through phone calls now and see if I can get somebody interested to do it for us.
It's a concrete structure, right?
Yep. Yep.
Get Jim Bradley to build it.
That's an option.
Mm-hmm.
We've got plumbers all lined up, you know, so.
Call it Jim Bradley Memorial Toilet or something like that. He liked that.
I don't
I'm
think you
just
want
gonna
to
leave
call
it out, make
He's
no
like that.
comment.
Oh, I pick up Jim.
I don't think you can call Memorial quite that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's moving forward. You don't need a motion or anything like that.
Just as long as everybody understands where to put it that way, if you get questions, you can answer questions as well.
All right, next, approve warrants.
Wait, no,
Oh, sorry.
wait.
Go ahead.
I wanna go home. Can we do the dog park next?
I thought there was other-
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can speak, if Sarah can speak. Okay, originally we came before the board, we wanted to put it in the Y of the road over by Copley Avenue. We went to the neighbors, we got community comments, felt like it was a great location. As you all know, it sort of flipped when we talked about the Noise House Museum and possibly being back there. You all heard with Noise House Museum. We would like authorization to go ahead and continue planning it at the Y in the road by Copley and Park Street, is why we're back here. We have done a little bit of fundraising. We're gonna do a fun and furry event at Rocktoberfest to start putting some money away. We really felt like we need to come back before you and say, are you all okay with this location?
It's where the ice rink used to be, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Good.
I don't love that spot.
You don't want a dog.
So Trish and I took,
I've never liked that spot, you know that.
we took a couple hours and we literally took a map of every town and village property and drove around and looked and, yeah,
Chris's house, remember?
It-
Chris is great.
I don't think
Super
it's,
convenient to downtown.
I think it's our best option for what we have.
We looked at Copley Golf Course land. I mean, Sarah and I, honestly, we looked at the Beaman lot. We looked at a lot of land, okay?
Behind water.
It was half a day of riding around with Sarah Paskins, okay? I'm just
I never
saying.
get to leave the office. It was a very educational
Yes.
experience. I didn't realize all the town and village properties.
I was wondering what that piece we talked about, I think Eric brought it up near RK Miles, which looked, I like that piece.
It's not our property.
It's
their
RK
property.
Miles.
They wouldn't deed it over to us, it's useless for them. We can't use it, it's wetland.
I think you're gonna have a problem down there. Everyone uses that as a walking trail, right out to Foundry Street. I don't agree that it should go down there. Sarah and I looked at it, right?
It's pretty secluded back there too.
Man, it's very secluded. Like, you don't see it from anywhere. just,
There's been some ruffled feathers between Arcade Miles and 10 Railroad too. It's trying to get smoothed out, but boundary kind of
Between them and the town, or between them?
between them, but it's, could be between us and them, and I don't want it to be between us and them.
I don't either, to be honest with you. Arcade Miles is working with us on building this bathroom down there. And they are very strong supporters of community projects, community things that we do. I mean, I hear it all over our community. And not that we shouldn't go back and ask them, but I really like the Y in the road, whether we all agree or not.
You gonna be okay, Chris?
We don't have to all agree.
No. That's why there's
Democracy.
five of us.
Chris doesn't love the bathrooms. but-
Okay.
I'm winning well on projects, huh, Chris?
So you don't need a motion for this anymore?
No, we
No.
we felt like, there's been enough discussion, that it was kind of hazy. Is this really what the board wants or not wants? We thought we'd bring it back and make sure that we thought we had approved this at one point in time. That was an old discussion. It made sense to come back one more time before they go forward anymore and start raising money to do it. And all of a sudden come back and go, yeah, I don't remember. it.
Wait, Sarah, how much have we raised so far? We're doing pretty
We
good.
have like $400.
Nice.
It's a race to see if the dog park or the bathroom gets built first.
Don't even go there.
I have the money
Andrew's
for the
writing it
bathroom.
Okay. Next, approve warrants.
Thank you all.
Make a motion to approve the warrant.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. TA report.
Just two things really on me. There was an appeal halfway house on Maple Street, which everybody knows, and I filed an appearance on behalf of the select board. Nothing for you to do at this point in time, but it gives you, your involvement in case if you so decide that you want to do so later. So, once again, there's no action, just so you know, I did file the appearance on your behalf, so you're parties to that case right now.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, so I think everybody did, but I didn't want you guys to get left out of something going down the road here. So, the only other thing really going on right now is arcade. They were back in, Saturday actually doing Randolph Road. That was the first coat. So they moved right along. There's another coat that goes on Randolph Road. There's another coat that goes on to Bridge Street, and Pleasant Street hasn't been done yet. But I think they'll probably do that from what they've told me after they've finished up everything within the village, and then they'll stay here and do those things out. Sometimes they call me, they have a gap in their schedule, and they come and pay it. So other than that, that's really all I have.
Are they gonna smooth out that spot up by Mike Alexander's, where Bob Hino did the...
Yep, we did that today.
Oh, you did?
Yep, we patched that today, and we put some hot mix into that.
Okay, because it was really bad.
Right, it was, and we've been we had to wait for them because they were still trying to figure out how they were going to do the sewer there, and we didn't want to go patch it and then have them dig it all back up again. But we wanted to make sure we got the patch in before they paved again. So that got done today.
Great.
And we patched that one section of asphalt sidewalk up there, for lack of a better term. So we put some hot mix on that.
Good.
So, I don't know, that sidewalk's in rough condition, but it fixed the dirt spots.
Right.
So.
Okay. Any questions for Dan?
Yeah, I was just wondering about explaining about the application process.
Yeah, there was an email, and I know the board's got it. I don't think I got all the emails, and that's fine, I don't need to. And once again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on zoning applications in Chapter 117. Chapter 117, the statute's probably the longest chapter in there. It's pages and pages long. But I know there's some discussion about, how the application process works, and just watching it. And I did pull statute. Once again, Todd's not here, so I can't really confer with him too much on it. And I don't want everybody to think I'm the expert or not. But I did pull statute, and this is Chapter 17, paragraph 44, 48. And it says that the administrative applicant should provide an applicant with forms required to obtain any municipal permit or any municipal authorization required under this chapter. I can tell you from my own experience doing the zoning here for a period of time before Todd became our zoning administrator, There were forms that used at the time. Once I came in, we used the NIMRIC module for our zoning, which actually is nice because it transfers all around through the listers, to the clerk's office, it makes it, and there's an electronic copy. And Erica has actually helped Todd a number of years ago put through, and we took all the ones, our past applications, and entered into the NIMRIC system. So we have a complete electronic database. Not all towns use that NIMRIC module to do that with. I think it streamlines things to a great degree. Once again, this is from my experience. And what was happening, I think, was because you could give somebody a paper form, they would take it home and fill it out. And quite often, sometimes they didn't get all the information that they needed, and a lot of people don't understand the form. But I think what Todd does, just so everybody understands, is people come in, and if you're coming in, let's say you want to build a house. He's going to sit down with you at the desk, he's going to take your information, and he's going to enter it right into the NIMRIC system. Okay? And that's really how the application process goes. It also lets him make sure that you're in compliance with the zoning bylaw at the same time. You know, this is your setbacks, this is what you can and can't do. I think the other thing to really consider is what's a permitted use, which those are things that Todd can sign literally that day and hand you a permit pending the appeal period, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then those that are conditional uses, they have to come before the development review board. So if it's let's say it's rebuilding a house, it's permitted use in the area where you're going, Todd can print that off, sign the permit that day, and he can give you this thing with big red signs, got the big P, okay? You're required as the applicant to post that where it's clearly visible on your property. That tells your neighbors that you're doing something there. And on it, it tells them how long they have to appeal it when the permit becomes valid. Because you're the applicant, I think it's 15 days before you can actually start work. So there is that appeal period. Once again, those are permitted use. Those are things that Todd can permit himself as the zoning administrator. Then there's the conditional uses. So say you come in and you want to, you're building, let's use
A garage next to the border or something like that.
No, I'm thinking a bigger one. Let's say, like a
Home
MSI.
Yeah.
The MSI just came in, so that's something, Todd can't prove it, it has to go to the DRB. So they kind of go through the same process, but there's a lot more drawings, there's a lot of other things that have to be prepared for it to go to the development review board. Once again, I'm not the expert on this, but so he would gather all that, he would still do all the data entry, and then we go to the development review board. When something goes to the development review board, there is a neighbor notification piece that goes with that. So there's a mailing that goes out so that everybody knows, all right, this is happening. And I think the example, once again, for a conditional use was the halfway house on Maple Street. Everybody got a notification so that everybody understood that something was going around to them for that property, so that the neighbors could be involved with the discussion at the development review board. If it's a subdivision, say you have 10 acres and you're dividing it into 5 lots, you will still get the big sign, except it's going to have a big red Z on it now. Even if it goes through the DRB process, that will still tell you that you have that appeal period. The other thing too is people come in and we explain the appeal process to them as well. So if they want to appeal something, all that information is available in the zoning office. They probably didn't get that right, but that's kind of the, not 100%, I don't want to be the zoning administrator. But that's kind of I think the broad overbrush of what goes on and how those permits are handled. And I can understand, the direct entry into the system makes things a lot easier because you do get a piece of paper, somebody, they take it home, fill it out, they bring it back to you, and I do remember it distinctly, it's nothing new. So there's information missing, or maybe the applicant doesn't really know. Applicants don't always understand the zoning bylaws. So I think from a customer service point of view, that's what we do here. Once again, I can't vouch or understand what other towns do as far as, but I never used the NIMRIC system for zoning before I came here, but it does seem to work well. And I really like that there's an electronic record of it and how well it interacts with the rest of our system too, because that helps it go straight to the listers. It's already into the system. I don't know if you ever access it or not from your.
I don't do the digital, but Todd brings he prints it out and then I scan and record it into the land records that printed out.
So, as far as the form, to a certain degree, we use that data entry piece into it, and that's, how we take those applications in.
It's kind of what I thought is when I was going through the emails several times, and I actually looked at the statute too. And from my point of view, with my experience in real estate, I know that's true, that people come in and they want to build a house and they, the old school ways to get the application and try to fill it out. And most of the time you don't have it filled out correctly or whatever. And it's a lot more one-on-one personable to come in and say, okay, do it online, do it electronically, and you're doing it right there. That's your record. You don't have to have, the application in paper form. It's right there electronically. And that's how I see it. And I see that as much better customer service to somebody that's, struggling, trying to fill out a form, take it home, bring it back. There's still blanks. So the people come in and sit with Todd and he just fills it all out and he gives the permit. So I think probably more and more and more towns are going to go to that model, not having the paper form application. And in my book, certainly nothing wrong with not having an application.
And we'll review, when Todd comes back, we'll review and see if we're missing anything. That's always helpful, and I think we should always be held accountable to do that, to see if we're missing anything. That I think that helps explain the process from what we do here. I can go, anybody that tries to fill out a zoning application, and even though I work in municipal government, filling out an application a couple of years ago for my deck, I wanted to have in my rear of my house. It's like, okay, make sure I got this right. You're out measuring distances from property lines and all that other fun stuff to make sure you got it right. Fortunately, with what we do here, we have all that capability with the GIS system and the mapping that we have, that we can do that right here. There's no reason for you to have to go out and measure that distance. Maybe you get it right, maybe you know where your property line is, maybe you don't. But we have the capability to do that all right here. We can bring up those things in our mapping system. And like I said, I think all towns have that capability that we have to do that.
But if we need to have an application, you can always print it too.
Well, that's what we do. We put it in, it's printed, and then it's filed. So, I think that, once again, I'm not the expert on it, I don't want to pretend to be, but that's just a general overview.
That sounds accurate. So myself and my family have done almost all those things you mentioned in the past few years. Building a couple homes, subdividing, lot line adjustments, kind of a shoot and match.
Right.
And it's worked pretty well from my perspective. I never really thought of it as a new application because you still have to go in, you pay your application fee, you do all that piece. But you don't necessarily have, I don't recall, it's been a few years now, but I don't know what we filled out, if we filled out anything, or if we just signed them after it was printed.
Probably signed after it was
I
printed.
believe that was in our recollection. Yep.
I just, once again, I think from that customer service perspective, I think we all work real hard at that here. The other thing I think too is, I've been places, I've seen places where they kind of play, well, you didn't fill this out, you need to take it back. And I don't want to get into us doing that, or you're missing this piece of information. I think, we have all the tools here to help people do that stuff. And
It might be good to just audit some too, to see if they're, everything's complete.
Sure, and once again, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Okay. All right, next, select board concerns. Judy.
I love that the Randolph roads were paved. I'm wondering if we, Chief, we could have one of those traffic speed limit, the electronic things put out there sometime. I've noticed the road is really smooth now, so you can go faster. Faster than they used to go.
On Randolph Road?
Yeah. They like to go fast on that road,
No,
yeah.
I've been getting complaints forever. When are you gonna pay Randolph Road? So today?
Well, no.
First go.
Just part of it.
The complaints won't stop.
Mine.
I know.
That's the worst part, I think.
Yeah, the worst parts. Yeah, first go. Chris.
Thanks to the folks that cut down the shrubs, the flowers at the end of
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. It looks much better. That's pretty much it.
Frank.
All set.
Eric.
Congress and Main Street intersection has had loose stones, not gravel,
Oh,
there's
it did the other
stones.
night, big ones.
And I can tell you that on a motorcycle, that is death on the road. Congress and Main Street right out here at the freeway. They had an ADA guy out there with a broom this morning, I thanked him for doing it. And this afternoon, it is nothing but marbles out there, it's horrible.
They're pretty big.
Yeah, this is like somebody, I don't know, it looks like somebody's, the back of the dump truck opened up and something dumped out.
It's sat there again, because it's not think anybody would be hauling it.
Yeah, I know, it's still there, anyway, we just get that cleaned up, I appreciate that. Do you have any update on the Act 250 process for our gravel pit?
Yeah, actually, I'm finishing that up with Tyler now. I was trying to get an updated bike map, trail map for him. I think he has everything ready to go. I communicated with him last week on that. But I don't know that I'm ever going to get a completed trail map. So I told Tyler we're just going to go with what we have and we'll sort it out as we go on. I can't wait any longer for it. I think within another week or two we'll see something.
Okay. That's all I have.
Yeah, I just had some comments about the stop bar. I mentioned it before, how it's like way back, you know, and I think it confuses people and myself, you kind of don't know when you stop way back. It's like you gotta stop again when you get up to the intersection. I know that's gonna change, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's,
I
was
learned
not
from
putting it
my
right.
son in driver's ed, it's because there's the legal stop and then there's the safety stop. You have to do them both. And where you learn
You know that, Richard?
drive.
I did not know that. I did either. But it's not in a good spot.
That's what
anyway.
they learned in driver's ed.
It should be right up to Congress.
You stop wherever the line is and the stop sign is, because that's what you legally gotta do.
Right.
But then half the time you really can't see to safely pull out, so when you can't do the second.
Well, that's the thing, with that stop way back, you can't, if someone's turning right, you can't see anything.
We're lucky to get someone to stop once.
Yeah, right. Anyway, that's all I have.
Is that where it's gonna stay?
No,
Please,
this is,
no.
all this painting that's out there is just temporary.
Okay.
All this, because they're gonna come through, there's gonna be another coat of asphalt going over all this, and then they'll paint lines back to the way they were for the most part. I mean, the parking, of course, is gonna change some because of the line of sight stuff that we talked about tonight. But I don't think anything really changes there as far as what the stop bars. They were taking our original configuration, putting that back in. They're putting up a new traffic light for us so that we don't see any problems with that. So, I mean, there's still a lot of work to go. I mean, the guardrails have all been changed out now. Our road police still working on it. They still got signs to go, and paving to go. But I think they're about done with structure now, so that's
I just
good step
ignore
forward.
that.
The stop sign?
When I ignore that stop bar, 'cause it's in the wrong place.
Yeah, right.
I stop, but not there.
What's confusing for people that do stop there, is someone else is going and they're zooming right
I
there.
stop
I only
there.
noticed it because of our driver's ed parent meeting lecture. There's one apparently there was one on Court Street that he was talking about too. I think it has to do with the parking. We got visual Google Maps about, this is where your parents probably, how you drive here, but this is how you legally should be driving on Court Street.
Okay. Any other business? Bill?
Just briefly, we picked up the next day one on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Legacy Graphics was in on Thursday morning, measured the truck, got all that done. Actually reduced their quote by almost $500 once they had the exact measurements. We're hoping next week it'll go to their St. Johnsbury shop. He thinks 3 or 4 days to do the vinyl wrap. And then we've already scheduled the radio and med bolt switch over once it comes back. So we're moving forward on that one pretty rapidly. If any of you want to come by and take a look at the truck, we'll
Yeah, I got the pictures. Sharp. Good one. Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So fast.